And let's look at some banging Lewis diagrams. These should be much more of a review back from your chemistry days. I've got a separate YouTube which I'm not going to watch with you. If you want to look ahead of that before, if you feel really unfamiliar with it, or maybe you did poorly with it at one part back in chemistry, but it's there for you. I'll put it up as a link on Schoology, and if I don't, let me know, or you can probably just type it in right there. But more things to work on, and this will also been kind of a review as well. So again, showing the valence electrons arranged in atoms and molecule. Central idea, this will be utilized in looking more at the noble gas electron configuration. Be very thoughtful in steps and clear with what you have here. Bonds, we often will use lines, and then unpaired electrons will use pairs of dots. If you want to use dots, that's also acceptable, but I've seen on the AP test, lines are also acceptable. So whichever floats your boat. Now you got your rules. Count and get all your valence electrons. Make sure you do that accurately. Keep in mind what ions will have. If there's like 2 minus or 1 minus, that'll be more electrons. And if they're plus, like NH4 plus, that'll be less electrons. Place your atoms. Again, you want to put all of the ones that are least electronegative in the center without your carbon and hydrogen, or without your hydrogen and your what are called halogens, group 17. Get all of your things simple, single bond. Give everything a full shell, those 8 electrons around, recount the electrons used. You got too few, give more on the central atom. Too many, double or triple bonds to fix, and then recount. It's much more of a, I don't want to say it's like a practice that you get used to, but there's also a lot of patterns. And if you do enough of these, you'll almost like remember or memorize how they go. So placement. Hydrogen always goes on the outside. See this one so often. It dead ends, it terminates, caps off. It can only make one bond, so it's got to be on the way outer edges. Okay, it can't be in the center. Remember, least electronegative goes in the center, except for hydrogen. So this is the most electronegative, so least as you go away from it. Symmetry is good. That's generally the way things work because of the fact that you have atoms being equal. These 2 oxygen atoms are the same. Therefore, it makes sense that they both pull the same. Again, better to be symmetrical. And again, even this one, see, doesn't seem to work out, but that's okay. It is symmetrical is best. Now, formal charges is something you need to add on to your layer of Lewis structures. You want the lowest. If you're drawing an ion, the sum of the formal charges should match the charge of the ions. So the sum of the formal charges, say 1 plus in NH4, 1 plus. The negative formal charge on the more electronegative elements, meaning closer to fluorine. So keep those in mind as we'll talk about formal charges in our next section. Some of the places that they like having multiple bonds are in what are called organic compounds. Those are consisting of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, occasionally like a sulfur or something. However, this is where we come into the idea of being familiar. You don't have to memorize these per se, but you want to be familiar with the organic compounds. When you need something like a double bond, 2 pairs of electrons, either representation is good. You might notice it as an ene. Sometimes they'll tell you the name, and that can be a clue saying, hey, that's a double bond because it's ene. Single bonds would all be anes, A-N-E. Triple bonds would be ines, 3 pairs. But again, the naming and memorizing that stuff, that's not what AP is all about. However, anything more you have as knowledge can be helpful in determining many things going forward. So that's what, So before we get into that, that's where we're at when we think of multiple covalent bonds. Get some practice on it. Let me know what kind of questions you have. And again, they shouldn't be much more challenging than what we did in regular chem or honors. Just taking it to the next level. Let me know what questions you have when you come in. Take care.